Welcome back to the Solid Verbal Boys and Girls. Yes, I am Ty Hildebrandt. He, over there, the other box, he's Dan Rubenstein. We are the Solid Verbal. And this, Daniel, raise your glass, whatever you got in front of you.
Boom.
This is our Brew&A, where we've decided we're going to have a drink. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to enjoy each other's company for, 15, 20 minutes. Sound good to you?
What are you drinking?
I am
Free
drinking
plug.
a Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale. 'Tis the season.
Oh, very seasonal.
'Tis the season. How about yourself?
I have a Brooklyn brewery. It's a fireman's themed, like Fireman's One Brooklyn brewery. So even though I'm not in Brooklyn anymore, I still have this. Let's get a little bit more honest than usual with the help of brain-killing chemicals.
Let's do it. Where do you want to go first? So we solicited questions.
Okay. Yeah.
We had a bunch sent in to us. This is dropping on a Friday, so it's sort of like an all-day happy hour.
This is delicious, by the way.
Depending on when you're listening. Yeah, this is pretty good, too.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want to go first?
Okay, let's go first with... Oh, man, there's such a good question here about your mom. This is from Breedless, I want to say. What would relegation look like, in light of the news of having the last place teams from each division in the Big Ten look like? What would we do for relegation? Would you relegate a team that is so bad in the way that they do in European soccer to the FCS level, to a lower conference within college football? What would you do for that?
Well, I mean, I think there are many teams that could be relegated and substituted with North Dakota State, and it
Correct.
would make for a better competition at the FBS level. Agree, disagree?
Totally agree.
So I've always thought of it, and I know Bill Connolly, our friend from ESPN, has put countless hours of thought into this very model. I have not. But what they do in the Premier League is the bottom 3 teams, I want to say, get relegated down to the championship, and the top 3 in the championship get bumped up to the Premier League. So I would be fine with doing a similar format within a conference, within all of FBS. My guess is you couldn't do that many teams, but let's say we took like the bottom 3 FBS schools and we just kept it very limited. And we brought up, obviously, the North Dakota State Bison. We brought up, a school from a different conference in the FCS.
James Madison.
And, of course, the top team from the Patriot League. They would have an automatic
always.
spot at the next level.
Yeah, I nobody's arguing that. Let's stay with conference infrastructure. We have Big Ten teams playing, we think, an 8+1 schedule. Certainly we have the SEC, ACC, Big 12 teams playing a mostly conference schedule. The SEC is conference only. What do you see as a potential threshold for the Big Ten and Pac-12 playing fewer games than other conferences? And now, I will add, there have always been variable number of conference games.
Right.
The SEC playing 8 games, the ACC, the Big Ten. It's shifted throughout time, but this is a sport with unequal number of conference games as is.
Right.
How do you feel about a 6-0 team versus a 9-1 team? Let's say an impressive USC goes 6-0, just demolishing everybody, including the best teams in the Pac-12, whereas an ACC, SEC, Big 12 team goes 8-1, 9-1 if there's a postponement or 2, whatever. But they still end up playing 2 or 3 more games entirely.
Yeah, the off-balance schedule doesn't quite bother me. It doesn't bother me. College football has always been a very asymmetrical sport. And so it's convenient that they all play 12 games. And, of course, it's not counting conference championship games or games against Hawaii. But,
right.
I think you have a pretty good sense after 7 games who the best teams are. You could very easily give me a 6-0 Clemson, and I'm more than willing to crown that team as one of the top 3, top 4 in the country. In many cases, that's all it takes to classify Ohio State or Georgia or Oklahoma kind of in that grouping of the elite. So it doesn't bother me. I'm not sure I'm answering the question here, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that you might have some teams playing an unequal number of games. I think we're still going to have more than enough to judge as we would any other college football season, frankly.
If I'm more impressed with a I don't know, because of postponements. Obviously, the number of games is variable for the Big Ten and Pac-12 at this point. If I'm more impressed with a 7-0 Ohio State than I am a 10-0 or whatever Alabama, I am happy to put Ohio State in over Alabama if everybody's undefeated. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like similar records. I am thrilled to put in. Now, if the Pac-12 plays 3 games, there's a limit to my kindness about eye tests.
Right. If
the Pac-12 plays 3 games because of postponements and cancellations, and everybody else is playing 8, 9, 10, 11, then that shifts it a little bit. But anything really up 6 and above to me, I'm willing to go with eye test and how well a team dominates its schedule playing Power 5 opponents exclusively over another one who perhaps plays 2 or 3 more, because it's case by case. It should always be case by case. It should not be hard and fast numbers to me. So I'm going.
Does it bother you that there won't be any cross pollination this year?
That we don't get to see, Oregon, Ohio State.
Yeah, we won't have those non-conference games that maybe we would use in a normal season as a barometer for where teams stack up, where conferences stack up against one another.
A bit, yeah. I mean, it's more for the entertainment factor than it is the judging who should be in the playoff, who should be in a New Year's Six game. Because we sort of rarely talk about, oh, this is the tipping point, what this team did on September 4th. It's a data point, but it feels less and less important as the season goes on. Like, we tend to put weight on, what a team did in a conference championship game, what a team did against the best team on its schedule within the conference in the last month or something like that, how a team looks. And I think the playoff committee, for as varying as their reasoning has been over the years, they seem to point to what a team has looked like and what a team has turned into instead of what it looked like in September being just as important. So, yeah, I miss it just because I miss having an early season Alabama-Wisconsin. I miss having an early season Notre Dame-Texas. It just it added such a jolt to the sports calendar that it feels so different without it. But listen, we get football, Ty. We get
football, but there is no denying the fact that that's a really big component that's going to be missing from this season. You're right. Those were the games that you would set your watch by. They really were. And to not have gigantic football within the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season, when typically you would see a lot of these non-conference matchups, it's a blow. We're doing the best we can to just have some variation of football this year. And I think we're all grateful in some sense that we're going to have that. Hopefully they can do it safely. And maybe this is just going to have to be a necessary sacrifice for the time being. But I do miss that part of it. I don't think it really affects my view of some of the better teams in college football. If anything, it makes for a more interesting show, because whereas before maybe it was decided on the field, now it's going to be decided by arguments. And when arguments come into play in college football, the tribal sport that it is, that makes certainly for very interesting reverbs on a Sunday morning. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and I say all of that, what I had said before and what you had said before about those early season matchups, knowing that the team I root for, the Oregon Ducks, would have been in the playoff last year had they won their headlining early season game against Auburn, if they had held on to win that game. I still feel that way, that ultimately what you're able to do as a whole is greater than what's going to happen in a headline early September game to the playoff committee or to whoever is determining bowl games. So I think we're relatively on the same page.
We agree. Where are we going?
You want to go to another question?
Let's do it.
This is just from me to you. Have you changed your mind about valuing weekends without full-on banger matchups being good to watch because it's just college football? You've gotten some flack about that over the years, that you've suggested to people, you need to take the day off and just come back for this one game.
Over the years, I got flack from it this past week.
I know, you did.
A very intelligent-sounding gentleman wrote in and just ripped me for proposing the idea that there could be a window of opportunity for a full week of games. And not just this week, says this respondent, this loyal verballer who still listens.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's been building in me for years. I'm not as enthusiastic about the sport as I used to be, Dan.
Wow.
You changed, man.
Tough words.
He's saying you changed, man.
Mm-hmm.
Have I changed, Dan?
I agree. Not particularly. You seem more tired, but I think that's just because you're old.
I'm definitely more tired, yeah.
Can confirm. Do you want to get into some non-football questions? Is that good by
I would
you?
love to get into some non-football questions. I am still enthusiastic about this season. What I will say in my own defense,
All right, I'm ready.
yes, I'm tired, but that's no excuse. We try to bring as much energy as we can to each and every show. That being said, circumstances have, I think, made it, and we've discussed this before, a little bit more difficult to truly get jazzed up for the season. Not because we don't want football. Football is our business here. But just because I think we're, in some sense, struggling to find football's place amid all this.
Yeah.
It's going to happen now, whether we think it should or shouldn't. Football is happening. And as I said to you countless times on text message over the last 2 weeks, it could be the worst game in the world. I watched Florida State, Georgia Tech religiously, intently.
You did.
From start to finish. And I loved every freaking second of it. So regardless of where I stood before all this, the fact remains, the reality remains that football is happening this season. And regardless of how good the games are or aren't, I'm still very excited about it. I found myself getting really excited about it, and really excited about just that shred of normalcy that we have back on our weekends. Yeah, so I'm excited.
Good. Colin wants to know, how does Mama H feel about her baby becoming the voice of Manscaped?
You know what, Dan? I had a
trimmer.
I had a conversation about that literally this morning with my mother.
Okay, how does she feel?
She said, I don't like that ad.
What?
She doesn't like it. And I'm not so sure she knew that you took clips of me from previous shows and constructed some sort of conversation.
She thought you had an outdoor setup for shaving your body hair?
I think there's a chance she legitimately thought that, Dan.
Oh, it was wonderful. I thought you did a great job with that ad, Ty.
No.
Zero control.
Can we walk the fine folks through the creation, the production of that spot? Because as it typically goes, you get notified that you have to do a spot. Mm-hmm. You get all of the talking points that you're supposed to cover and hit. And it was, I think, your turn to do one. And so
you have specifically refused to do the Manscaped reads.
I haven't refused.
You know that your family members listen to the show, whereas my family members long ignored solid verbal.
I haven't refused. I have not refused. Yeah. That's not accurate. But
okay,
I have shied away because I didn't want that uncomfortable conversation with my mother.
Yeah.
And so you said, no, I got it. I can produce the ad. Mm-hmm. No problem. And then you uploaded it to our partners. Before you uploaded it to me, and then by the time I had a chance to listen, it was all too late.
I can just tell you this. I reviewed some better clips of you to use, and I opted that it was too cartoonish for me to ask you about using the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 and you saying something like, oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. So there's so much of your voice out there.
I know, that's a problem.
Because of this show in pristine digital audio that you could have so much fun.
I know.
With a 128 kilobytes per second Ty Hildenbrandt voice that I did right by you, relatively speaking.
This is me taking a big swig of this pumpkin ale right here. Very big swig.
By the way, they have not sponsored this video because we haven't tried to sell this video because why would we? It's a pretty good product.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good product, Ty.
I agree.
Pretty good product. Next question, off topic, Ty. Wife and I, this is from Dak, longtime listener, Verballer Dak. Wife and I just got a pizza stone.
Whoa,
Do you have any tips?
This is your beat right here, pizza stone.
I know. Do you have any tips/tricks for making pizza in the oven? We've tried the plain old pepperoni pizza a bunch, and I'm looking to spice it up a bit, pun intended.
Spice it up a bit. We do have a sound for that.
Do you know what the pizza stone or the pizza steel is? Do you know what either of those are?
I know what a pizza stone is, and I know what blue steel is, but I'm not sure I know what the pizza steel is. So I have a pizza stone downstairs that I think we got for our wedding that I've never used. And don't
Okay.
really know the basics of using. So how does this work? What's the benefit over, putting a pizza in the oven on like a cookie
little pan?
cookie sheet or something?
Sure.
Talk me through this process here.
So the stone and even more so the steel, you preheat them in the oven and they retain a ton of heat. So when you put the dough down on them, you're putting it down on a super hot surface.
Okay.
And the key to making good pizza, besides using really good ingredients and making dough, is a really hot oven that really activates everything in your ingredients. It puffs up the dough really nice. You get some char on there.
Right.
The cheese gets all melty. The pepperonis curl up. So that's the advantage. You want a really hot oven. My friend Scott over at the Pizza Resource Center, he posts all sorts of
Wait, did you say
recipes.
Pizza Resource Center?
The Pizza Resource
It sounds
Center.
like WebMD for pizzas.
It sort of is. He just launched it. But he posts all sorts of recipes for dough, and you make the dough and you weigh the ingredients. So it's by grams, not by cups or anything like that. So it's really precise. You let it ferment, so
Wow.
it really hydrates the flour, things like that. In terms of toppings, Ty, if you really want to spice up a pizza, first of all, just the simple act of spice, the spicy honey. Do you have any of that? Have you tried that? Just a little drizzle on your pizza?
I do the crushed red pepper.
Always delicious. Sure.
I do that.
Maybe a chili oil. Maybe look up chili oil. You can drizzle that on your pie to add some spice. So it's like the red peppers, but in oil form.
I don't even know where you
So-
buy that, but I'm intrigued.
I think you can make it. You can get some Calabrian chilies or something like that. That'll do really well, and you can make an oil out of it.
Okay.
There's all sorts of topping options that I think work really well. I would say maybe go into like a more Italian. You can probably get soppressata, most butchers, delis, something like that. So it's sort of a bigger, it's in the pepperoni family. I think that works really well.
Pepperoni genus.
The pepperoni genus. I'm trying to think of like what other even unusual pizza toppings I enjoy, because I generally go pretty straightforward with either like a margarita or a pepperoni or soppressata. You ever have squash blossoms, Ty?
I haven't had it most of what you've described here, other than pizza. And
Yeah.
pepperoni.
Real good. I don't think you need to experiment with toppings as much as you need to experiment with making your own dough and finding high quality cheese, and maybe making your own sauce. I think that's the actual move. And the pizza steel, I don't think it's terribly expensive. Maybe they can send us a couple and we can do videos about it. But the pizza steel is apparently the move, and you preheat it for like 45 minutes or an hour in your oven, and then maybe partially part of the time you put it under the broiler, so you get real hot there on top. Maybe get some cheese browning. So I think that's the move. I think it's making your own dough and making your own sauce.
Mama H makes her own dough and her own sauce, and she makes a really good thin crust pizza.
Okay.
And what I've always found really interesting about that, in my lack of education around making pizza, is that it doesn't come out at all greasy.
Right.
The way that she cooks it, it's just sort of like a legit pizza pie. And
Amazing.
yeah, it's light, so you can eat a lot of it. It's obviously better for you. It's got better ingredients in it.
Mm-hmm.
So she makes it about once a year. It's sort of an event.
Better ingredients, better pizza. Mama H.
Mama H.
Mama H. Final question. This one's going to go back to college football. How about that? Bonus college football question from Carl. If a team has games that can't be made up before a conference championship, what happens? So, as we mentioned on the UFO show, the Big Ten is playing 8 games and 8 games only maximum. If something happens in terms of postponement, there's no time to reschedule because it's pressed right up against championship weekend and the selection process for the playoff. What happens if, say, 6-1 Iowa and 6-2 Wisconsin occur? Does that 6-1 team get in over them? What happens in that scenario?
This is that argument, Dan, that I referenced earlier.
Right.
This is where that argument comes into play. I would like to think that they would try to find a way to get creative. Don't know what that means, but Pitt was able to shorten a game by 10 minutes, so I got to believe almost anything is possible. I don't know if they play a game midweek. I don't know if they come up with some creative means of squeezing one in if they think it's going to matter. My guess is that if there's a game canceled, it's and in the Big Ten's case, if it's postponed, it's probably not happening until 2021.
Yeah, I would guess that it's going to be some sort of combination. There'll be tiebreakers that come out based on whatever factors the Big Ten deems appropriate, but it could be, where are you in the college football playoff rankings? That's been a tiebreaker that we've seen, 2008 with the Big 12 and those three teams, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Texas tied. That was a factor. Where were they in the BCS rankings?
Right.
Obviously, in this specific case, Iowa and Wisconsin will play head-to-head unless that's the game that gets canceled. Unless that's the game that gets canceled and those teams end up 6-1 and 6-2, I imagine it's just going to be the team that is ahead. So maybe if that one loss is a blowout loss and the two losses are close to good teams, I would have to know the specific context, but I could see a universe in which I'm okay with the 6-2 team getting in over the 6-1 team.
All right, well, I think that's our Brew&A, Dan.
That's the Brew&A.
Raise a glass.
I'm buzzing a little bit, Ty. Hey, here's a closer look at the Brooklyn Brewery Fireman 1, whatever it is.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, we'll catch you all for our recap show on Sunday. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.